because I think I have a microphone now. Can everyone hear me? Is it all good? Is everything out of focus? Kinda. Let's see. I mean, I guess this is just no. Okay, so that camera's being a giant piece of crap. One sec. What the hell is going on? Is this camera working? Okay, that. Wow, something weird happened. Give me a sec, y'all. Let me do this. So just so everyone's aware, today is cursed. What happened to the stream layout? That's really bizarre. There is, we've got electronic gremlins today. My favorite thing is always when I have the stream set up like absolutely perfectly. Everything is going to plan, everything is just fine. And then it all just decides to die. Isn't that great? Okay. Give me a sec. I'm gonna see if I can get that big camera back. I wonder if there's something wrong with the capture card. The camera is on. You know what? I guess since we're not really relying on the capture card now, since I have another microphone, let me just unplug it. I wonder if like going... Yeah. I'm always breaking everything. Aren't I supposed to be the guy that fixes stuff? Okay, now if I do this, it doesn't want to work. Okay. Well, okay, it looks like this is going to be a 2-camera stream today. All right. Capture card came to life, but it's not taking anything. Did the little mini HDMI thing get screwed up? Okay, well, to hell with it. We have one camera. Okay, now since this is the main camera, now I actually need to adjust it right. How's it going, everybody? Isn't this fun? Let's do something like this. I'll get it like that, and then we'll actually level it so it's not super crazy. We'll do this, and then you can kind of see me as I sit down. All right, sweet. Now let me sit back at the desk and pretend like none of that happened. Hi, okay, do we still have audio? Can you still hear me? Sorry, everybody. It looks like we're good. All right, Colin's giving all sorts of stuff. Schwank says, sounds good. Charleston Pinball Arcade said, need the 2001. You can come play it. Mike is good. All right, fantastic. What's up, everybody? We are doing PinTech without Emoto today because unfortunately Emoto is... Wait. Oh, yeah, that one's right. Emoto's in snowstorm territory right now. Much of the Northeast is under snowstorm stuff, so that's kind of, or the Midwest, etc. So hope y'all are okay. Emoto's internet is not stable enough to join us today, so we're just gonna kind of kick it, do it live. I think most people join this stream just to get the free shipping code, so I'm gonna say it now. It's PT-holiday. But if you want to stay and chat and do some stuff, we can do it now. because the little graphics aren't there, etc. The product spotlight is generic, but whatever. We're just gonna do it, right? We make do with what we have. Thank you, Charleston Pinball Arcade for posting that up. Yeah, PT Holiday. So, Snowmageddon. I kind of wish it would snow here, to be honest. I love the snow. Who's Elvira, right? Kyle, do you have all your Christmas shopping done yet? Yes, actually. I bought my wife some presents and my cat some presents. I'll probably ship my father and mother some gifts after Christmas. I'm going to get my dad some grits. And my mom is getting... I guess actually I already kind of got her a present, but I'm going to get her another present. There's a coffee shop next to my house that has this cold brew coffee that she is just like in love with, and they just started canning it, so I'm going to send her some. So, do you have all your Christmas shopping done in Sanity Falls? Aw, I wish you could be here to team up. That would be fun. We could work on some EMs together. Yeah, preparing your pinball for the cold, give it a sweater. I think that's the best advice. Check it out. Actually, I'm working, this is kind of neat. I'm going to put this away, but we had a couple defective insider connected scanners. Unfortunately, this one got exploded when the guy shipped it back to us, but I guess there was a small batch of them that went out partially defective. One of the defective bits, and I don't know why, I was kind of sitting here trying to figure it out with one of the busted ones, is sometimes the LEDs do not work. The LED that lights up the scanner, but the scanner will still work. So I kind of started to scavenge a couple together to figure out why, and buzzing out these small ribbon cables that connect these boards together. I've been working with Stern tech support just to learn a little bit, but I will most likely be sending these scanners back in, getting replacements, and then putting the kits back together. So, Drugger, thank you for subscribing. If anyone is spending Christmas alone this year, please let me know. I need to borrow some chairs. Let him know. Dude needs some chairs. Colin says, supposed to be -20 tomorrow. Do you sell pinball sweaters? No. Maybe I'll start knitting some, though, so y'all can have some. Don't worry, Emoto. We miss you, but you've got important stuff to do. Let me... actually, you know what? I have one of these... I kind of Frankensteined an Insider Connect. Oh, hey, look at that. This one's actually working now when it wasn't before fully. Hold on. Give me a second. We're going to see if it actually works. I may have just fixed one by combining two pieces, but maybe not. Oh, okay, hey, I fixed one. All right, well, that will sit there as an anomaly, and I might put that one back together, but I had one that had, I think the one that I had a failed, I guess we'd call this like the connection board. So you've got two boards that are connected with a ribbon cable. One goes to the scanner. This board has 3 LEDs at the top and the bottom, and then something to do with controlling the scan and recognition of a QR code. I have no idea how that works. And then there's like a 6-pin flat ribbon. So unlike a ribbon cable that we'd use on like a pinball game, that's a DIP, dual inline package. We have a flat cable, just like a literal ribbon cable, and it goes like this. You've got conductors on only one side. It might be a little hard to see, but little conductors on only one side, and then that slides into the receptacle. And what I think it was is this ribbon cable might actually be bad. Well, it doesn't slide actually. They lift up and then you clamp down. But yeah, I think the ribbon cable on the other one was bad, which was causing the entire unit not to work. When I had it plugged in, we had status up here, but nothing happened down here, and I think the ribbon cable was it. So Anywho, I will continue messing with that later. Let me kind of just, oh crap. How does this one go? They go in one way once they are installed into the apron. So the top left and bottom right get screws and nuts. Let me just kind of tack this back together, and I will have to finish this tomorrow. I will leave the office and come over here to do some work. Anyways, yeah, how's it going? Sorry, the chat's like going crazy. Everyone's talking to Emoto because she's the most important person here. All right. Cold in Amarillo. It's not that cold here. It's in the 30s, 40s. It's not so bad. No problem, Emoto. I got this. Okay. Anywho, let me. Oh crap! I put this together right. It goes like this, and then these go here. So yeah, I mean, if you have any issue with your Insider Connected kit, I would suggest reaching out to Stern Tech Support, and they will take care of you. Because there is a known issue with some of them. Now, the LEDs being out is not indicative of the unit being broken. The scanners will still scan without LEDs, but I think one issue that people have been running out into are bummer LEDs. So if that bothers you and you want to get it replaced, I would reach out to Stern. I'm just going to put this over here with the couple dead units we have. I will call the fantastic Mr. Pat Powers tomorrow and get those sorted out. Let me unwrap this here. Okay. So we have two options today, really. Where am I going? I'm gonna drink my water. I'm going crazy. Moving a little too fast today. Let's check out the chat. APB Enterprises. Hello. Drager. Yeah, dude. System 80 games have some fantastic sounds. There were 3 sound people at Williams at that time, and I think some of them jumped. Maybe not all of them. I know that Dan Forden and Chris Granner were at Williams in the late 80s doing a lot of those System 11 games, and they are fantastic composers. And then Vince Ponarelli came in. I think he was there in the early 90s as well, because Williams kind of had 3 teams, it seemed like, making games all the time. And all 3 of them are just fantastic. It's crazy how, I mean, those composers, they did something that's seemingly so silly and not like a high art form like being in a band or like composing music or something, but some of those are actually the most creative composers of all time. They deserve a lot of credit. Why are the LEDs intended for folks scanning paper QR codes? I think it's well, yeah, I think that the LEDs just help the scanner pick up the pattern of the code. So I mean, most people are doing it on their phones, but you can't exclude people who don't have it on their phone. So I think it's just kind of a, I don't know if that's a custom scanner that Stern made. Maybe they had it custom made in a form factor, but that's how they're designed. Like when you're going on an airplane and they're like, make sure your phone's on full brightness before you scan your code, right? I think it's just easier for the scanners to pick up when they're brighter. Is it me or did the LEDs die more often on IC kits? All the machines I see with the IC LEDs are dim or out. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that, but I know that there is a batch or was a batch of them that potentially had issues with the LEDs. So like, I think someone who returned a couple of those was a very particular customer who was like bummed out that, some of the LEDs weren't working and some were, so we exchanged them for them, so I was just trying to mark which ones functioned and didn't have LEDs to figure out what to do with them. You know, some people don't care. If I had one that didn't have an LED working, I would be fine if it was in my house or something. But some people aren't. So Insanity Falls has his on a keychain. That's awesome. I have mine on my phone, but I'd like one on the keychain. I really like the feature that Stern implemented with putting it, the ability to attach it to your wallet on your phone. I think that's pretty cool. Waiting for the storm of the century. I'm sorry, that sounds terrible. Hope all of you guys are okay with the snow and storm. So, Kyle, is that some gray face gear you're wearing? Yes. I love my Gray Face Records and Curiosity hoodie. It's very cozy. Schwank had a Deadpool reboot mid-play on a first ball. That's weird. Is it your game or is it, was it an operator's? Or Home Team is very smart. I really like Home Team. My home team is Deadflip, Emoto, me, and my wife. And I've never played at home with Deadflip, but he did text me his QR code for a stream once. It was funny. It was in an arcade. Oh, I better tell the operator. Get that thing fixed. I couldn't tell you what it was. There could be many reasons why a game may reboot mid-game, but it's not supposed to do that. Okay, so we've kind of got two options today. We have, sorry, hold on. We have Elivra. We also have Baywatch. As I was playing Baywatch, once we finished last week's stream, the outlane ball save, the outback ball save kicker became weaker and weaker and weaker, and it was sad. I don't know what's wrong with it. So I think we can either explore that and take a look really quick, or we can explore Elivra. I came prepared today to service the power supply, and we can explore what else is going on in this game. I've only looked at it once, but of course we're not going to turn it on until we have kind of eliminated or checked for those important safety features, like making sure the voltages are stable on the computer. So I think we can start with either. I think the Baywatch thing will either be really quick because something's loose or grenaded, or we can wait to do that and explore it later. I'm kind of more pushing towards let's check out Baywatch first because that could be really simple. And then jump on Elivra, which might take a minute. I don't know. What are you thinking? Hey now, we gotta keep this PG. C&K, hello, Merry Christmas to you as well, thank you. Elivra does need some love. Well, I don't know why I posed it as a question, because I should have just said, we're gonna look at Baywatch first. Let's figure this out. It's probably going to be something really simple. It's either parts, or tightening, or something, so please enjoy the dizziness you're gonna get from me moving this camera around. All right, good. I have one vote. One person validated me to say we fix Elivra, or Baywatch. So let's look at that first. I am a huge fan of physical ball kickbacks. It is one of my favorite features in a pinball game. I love a ball save, and I also really like it when the ball stays in play, right? It doesn't just go away and then, hey, wait, hold on, it's coming back. When the ball actually stays on the play field, it feels a little more, I don't know, natural, magical? I'm not sure what word to use, but one of those works. I think it's also confusing to a lot of new players when a ball just kind of like disappears and then it kind of comes back. Some people don't understand where the ball went or understand ball saves. So keeping the ball on the playfield is a choice. I think the reason it may have fallen out of fashion in a sense is just it takes up a coil, right? A solenoid drive. When Stern games run on, 19 drivers, I think. I'm sorry, 18 drivers. Yeah, it's cool to have a ball save, but is a ball save more important than like a actual playfield feature? I think most of us would vote for another interesting playfield feature over a physical ball save, but. So this Sega game, the apron comes out with 2 machine thread screws underneath the playfield. On a lot of games, you'll find, a lot of old Bally games or WPC games, you'll find the apron is attached to like the hold downs here, so you can unscrew them and then lift it up. This one is screwed in through the bottom. Up and out. Get this out of the way, bring it to the bench real quick. And we can kind of come in here and take a look-see at what we've got. Golly, I couldn't tell you why this sucks, actually. Let me bring the camera over and let's take a look. All right. A lot of the times a ball return kicker like this is kind of set up just like a knocker would be, right? We have a captive plunger on a bell armature, right? That ends here. We've got a spring that forces it back. The way these work, software sees a ball hitting the switch. And through programming, the software knows to energize this coil, maybe a millisecond or a prescribed amount of time after the switch closure has completed to then kick the ball back into play. Maybe I'm having software issues with this. Maybe the switch just needs to be cleaned or slightly adjusted. It feels good. What I've got my head down here listening for and feeling is I've got a finger on the switch and I'm trying to feel the micro switch click on and then click off. We need to make sure it clicks on and off for good operation. If the game can't see it click on, activating the switch, it won't kick the kicker at the right time. It might mistime it. Maybe that's what was wrong. What we will do for sure though is remove the coil and just make sure everything is retightened and positioned correctly. Because the reason I don't think there's an issue with this now is I was expecting maybe the coil to be a little loosey-goosey in this mechanism here. If the coil is loose and the plunger isn't riding true, that can cause things to just not actuate the right way, thus resulting in a very sad ball kick. This feels okay. It's nice and tight. Nothing looks wrong. But instead of like walking away from it, we will untighten it, retighten it, just make sure everything's okay. Just touch it, do something, so then you know when it starts to fail, okay, I've done this, let's look at something else. But I am going to listen for this switch to click on and off. Yeah, no, that's all good. And it clicks on very early. Generally, you want to always test a switch with a ball. Your fingers are soft little fatty things. And when you push on the small slits that the switches come through, sometimes your finger will exert more pressure, or it will allow more press on the switch, right? Where the ball is hard and it rolls over this. What I'm saying here though, even though using my finger is not ideal, it is okay here because the switch actuates much before the armature, the switch lever goes under the playfield. So I've got a solid click on, click off here. All is good. I am going to grab my screwdriver here really quick, loosen it, tighten it back up, and that might be all we do today on this game. We might turn it back on, or I might test it just to see what's going on, but other than that, if it's not a super simple issue, we'll put it on the back burner for just a minute. This does have a wave washer in there that's nice. Keeps the coil nice and tight for a good actuation. I'm going to push that nice and tight up against the solenoid and tighten these screws down evenly, both sides, so the coil retainer doesn't start to cock to one side. We want it to be as square as possible. A lot of times these games will have a test in software for the ball kickback. So let's do that. It's going to be a pain putting this down without the apron, but we can do it without severing our fingers. This will kind of give us a fun view, though, of how the heck this thing works. I think I will try to use this camera, and I'll put it on the big screen, though. Don't step down on your lockdown bar. It's a pain in the butt. Yeah, okay, check this out. Do that, and then this one we'll click on that. Wait, does this one work again? No. Oh, wait, that camera is all the way down in the corner again, like... Something weird happened to the OBS before we started. Streaming is hard, everybody. When you watch someone like Jack Danger or Manu put on like these flawless, amazing streams, it's crazy. I can do a switch edge test. Yes, you're right. Let's do that. Let me position this camera a little more on here. You can kind of see the DMD.
Help is on the way.
Help is on the way. Let's go into diagnostics. We'll do switches, switch test. I'm going to actuate myself a ball. Let me find the up kicker here. Okay. I'm going to roll the ball down here. We'll test it with the ball. It's closing. Well, so here's something else too. Depending on the programming, right, and we can watch this in action, it might be actuating too soon. If the switch actuates too soon, this is going to want to kick very early, thus equating into a very weak kickback. So we know the switch isn't the problem per se, but the switch's position could be a problem. So we'll go previous, and then I think there is a Baywatch specific. No, you know what? I think it will actually work if we put it into the playtest mode. Oh, I can use the control, the flipper buttons to do it here. So we can put it in playtest, pull the interlock switch out, and now our solenoids will be live. So if I hit a slingshot, oh, maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, no, that's absolutely what's happening. It's actuating too soon. Check it out. Can we see a decent picture of this? Dang, the camera I don't think is running fast enough to catch that. We can probably fix this easily by just adjusting that switch to close a little bit later. Let's see, watch this. Get there. It works sometimes, but sometimes it's not good enough. With speed, of course, it's going to work a little bit better. We want to try to adjust it to a point, though, where it will just work. We don't want if a ball dribbles in there slowly, there is software in the game that will say, okay, if shoot again is on, this switch closes, but this obviously didn't work, it will compensate by shooting another ball out. But we want the feature to work correctly, right? A ball save is exciting. And it comes through nice and quick, it works, but a little too slow, and it won't be reliable, right? But with speed, it works just fine. Let's try to adjust this switch just a little bit. This one's kind of a pain in the butt because the switch is actually like inside of the subway. But give me a sec and we will see what we can do here. Turn the interlock off. I'm going to grab the play field and bring it forward. These are the adjustments I'm always talking about. This is the actual hard part of fixing a pinball game. Fixing a pinball game is easy, and it's formulaic for the most part. If this happens, do X. These adjustments are a bit harder. So here's the switch. Oh crap, you can't see that. You can turn on the ring light. So there you go. A little bit of a pain in the butt. Let's see, so to get this to actuate later, what we're going to want to do is bend the actual armature of the switch, or the lever. We're going to want to bend it down. With it, you know, these switches are kind of like an arc like this. So the higher it is, the sooner the ball is going to press and actuate the switch. If we bend it a little bit further down, the ball's going to have to roll a little bit further before it will click. This is all trial and error. There's no formula to doing this. So I'm going to screw with this a little bit, and you guys, I'll switch the cameras, but there's going to be no great way to show this. So give me a sec. So to do this, I'm going to grab these needle nose pliers, this screwdriver. A lot of times I'm going to try to do this with just my fingers. I don't like using tools. Man, this sucks. It's just so, it's so buried. Ideally, right, like we could totally, we would try to like take this switch out. This subway is a bit of a pain in the butt to move. It's gonna be a couple screws to get it out, and then I might have better access, but what I'm gonna try to do is just gentle adjustments. I've got the switch depressed, and I'm going to gently push on it forward towards the flippers. Try to get that wire form to bend down just a tad. And since we kind of know what the issue is now, I'm going to put the apron back on. It's much easier to raise and lower the playfield when the apron is on. There are some keys here, so I need to make sure I slide the apron into these keys on the bottom arch. Okay. Does this at all kind of make sense, how it's a timing issue more than any other sort of a problem? This is also being finicky, right? But these are the things that make a game play that much better than a game that doesn't work that way, or as you expect it to. As we play these games and we learn how they work, it is less enjoyable to play them when we know things are not working correctly. Where did I put that spare ball? Here we go. Hello, Nolan. Merry Christmas. How are you? I'm going to push the, get the interlock switch back out, and we will dribble it in and see what happens. Oh, that's pretty good. We'll go quick. Whoop. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see. A little speedier. That looks okay. Let's put it in there nice and slow. Hey, that's not so bad. I'm gonna put it in there real slow. All right, I think we have just enough of a bend there to make that work. Let's put it in there impossibly slow. Ham for free. Hey, thanks for the raid. All 7 of you joining us. Hi. Oop, where's my head? Hi, I'm Kyle. On this stream, if you aren't familiar, we work on pinball games and we repair them. We are finishing up repairing Baywatch here. Teeny adjustments. And before we jump on to Elvira and the Party Monsters. Thank you. Make sure the roll up the out lane works too. My favorite use of kickbacks. Roll up the out lane? What are you talking about? I like what you're saying though. impossibly slow. Let's just drop it right on the switch. All right. We're a bazillion times better than we were before. So I'm going to say that works. All right. Here's another thing I noticed too. I'm always talking about waxing games. We like to wax games once we kind of have it torn down, give it some wax. I think one thing I want to give like secondary adjustments to, or a secondary bit to my waxing philosophy, is less is more. I always say that, but not only that, but you don't need to wax very often. Waxing a game a lot will make the game dirtier. The ball is going, when you buff it out, right, you let the wax harden, then you buff the wax off. That cleans, it looks fine. But there is still wax on the playfield, and your balls will start attracting or collecting that wax, and that wax is going to collect dirt, and your game is going to look dirty very quick. One thing I will do, after I play this game just a few more times, maybe have someone come over, we can all play it together, I will remove all the balls and wipe them down. We don't want waxy balls. Thank you, Board Dog, for bringing up waxy balls. Why, when you drain so hard, it rolls back up to the switch and Lazarus is the ball back. Oh, dude, yes. No, that was working. That is important. The Lazarus save, right? What we're talking about here is there is the most amazing feeling in pinball. When you drain, the ball comes at a certain angle and it hits the apron and it bounces back into play and you hit it with the tip of your flipper and you saved your ball. You did a Lazarus save. Sometimes the ball will drain so hard in some direction, the ball will have a bit of backspin. It'll roll up like this, and it will get kicked back into play. If you have a ball save lit, right, the game doesn't know that the ball has entered the, oh, you shouldn't be playing here zone anymore, right? The game is just looking for this switch to be actuated, so it will kick the ball back out. So if you get into a position where you drain the ball so dang hard it rolls back up like that, and it gets kicked into play, you feel like an absolute champion. I love that. I was playing my Total Nuclear Annihilation pinball game this weekend with my friend, and the crazy Lazarus saves you get on that game are just so awesome. Makes you feel like a champ. Okay, let me throw the glass back on this game, put the lockdown bar on, and let's move over to the mistress of the dark herself, Elvira. We'll do like a proper introduction to this game at some point. Emoto really likes to do the let's talk about the game. So we'll save some of it for that, but this game is a classic. It's one of those games that's just so damn perfect that it's timeless.
You did all you could.
Actually, let's get Baywatch out of here. We're gonna need some room, but I also don't want to move my cart, so I'm just gonna drag it away. Goodbye, Baywatch. Elvira. All right. Elvira. This game was designed by Dennis Nordman. Greg Freris did the art. Chris Granner did the sound and music. And I don't remember the rest. Actually, here. Actually, there's credits on this game. I think Mark Panacho did some work on this game too. This is a Nordman, Freris, Panacho, Granner, Poog, Patla, Ritchie, Peterson production. There's a story to this game that I just remembered. The credits on that list is pretty long, right? You've got designers, you've got programmers, but you have designers. There are multiple designers. In the production of this game, Dennis Nordman was in a bad dirt bike accident. And he was put into the hospital. During that time, a bunch of other people came together to help finish the game, and that is why they are credited there. Jim Patla is a pinball designer. Jim Patla did some incredible games such as Viking in the back behind this game, which you can't see here. Steve Ritchie stepped in and helped finish some of the geometry. Kind of a neat story. There's a bit more information about it online. I think Dennis Nordman did a Topcast interview with Clay Harrell a long time ago, and he recounts that story, and it's heartwarming. this is a interesting cabinet. So this is a 1989 game, I think, or 1988, or 1990, I don't know. But this is one of those games this is one of the first games that was made after Williams had acquired Bally Midway. There were a few games at that time that used a lot of Bally parts. Games like Truck Stop. Truck Stop used Williams flippers down on the bottom, but it used Bally flippers up at the top. Because of the way that it was designed in the geometry, the footprint of the Williams flippers wouldn't fit. Games like Atlantis was a Bally game. It ran the Bally 6803 CPU, but it ran a Williams soundboard. Truck Stop, I believe, was the same way. I think Truck Stop ran on Bally hardware but used a Williams soundboard. I might be wrong. But I think what the original idea was to kind of keep a brand identity for Bally, even though they were now part of Williams. That is why you'll see some of these earlier games have a really, really unique cabinet shape as opposed to the Williams games, right? On Williams games of this era, we had displays that were on top of each other. You had a traditional speaker panel down here that we're used to with Williams games of that era. But to keep the Bally identity different, to keep the Bally games unique, we had the speakers were installed up here with this big grill, a big Bally plate. We had two side-by-side displays down at the bottom. This went on for a while. I think the last game I can think of, and please, let's figure out the actual one if you guys are curious. I think the last Bally game to use its own unique cabinet may have been Gilligan's Island. There were a few games right at the end in the DMD era. And Gilligan's Island, I believe, was the first WPC game to use a DMD. You had a whole back glass here with a cutout for the DMD. And then we had games that came after. We'll use Addams Family for an example, even though it wasn't the first, right? But we had the DMD mounted to a speaker panel. It was around that time where Bally lost its physical identity and it just became a nameplate. I believe I kind of heard a story, and I don't know if this is true, maybe it's just an observation, but the idea was to kind of have Bally be kind of like maybe a little more racy or something like that. So you'll see a couple more high energy titles maybe attributed to the Bally name. I don't think that's true. I don't think it really will hold up in court. But essentially after Gilligan's Island, I mean, there was no more Bally. It was just a name. Now again, this says Bally, but it's all Williams parts. There is nothing Bally in this game other than the fact that it had a unique head and the branding. The last Bally game, full Bally game, was like the Blackwater 100, Party Animal, stuff like that. So, what about Black Rose? I worked on a Black Rose that had different flippers as it was used. No, the Black Rose is a WPC game. I mean, once WPC came around, I mean, literally once Williams bought Bally, there was no more Bally parts, right? It was all Williams. There were a couple games, like I said, I mentioned like Truck Stop and stuff like that, where there was some crossover. I mean, I can imagine Williams was just trying to use up all those old parts, and then the rest of them went to spare parts, which were then sold to distributors or sold to people that needed those parts, via distributors. But yeah, Bally just became a name. And I guess that's kind of why I get, sometimes people, I forget, right? Like it is Bally Twilight Zone. It's like, think about some of the WPC games you might own, or think of a WPC game, and who made that, right? Do people remember, is it Bally Star Trek or Williams Star Trek? Was it Bally Junkyard or Williams Junkyard, right? It was just another name, which is great because Williams kept the Bally name happy and alive and gave it the prestige it deserved until they shut the doors, unfortunately. So, that's one of my favorite subjects to talk with some of these folks about. The folks that worked at Williams or worked at Bally during that time. and just talking about what that transition was like, you know, that's kind of scary, you know, when your biggest competitor comes and absorbs your company, right? I mean, like, do you expect to have a job after that? You know, Greg Ferris is just, I don't know. I didn't know if I was going to have a job, right? Thankfully, he did. He had a great career. He still has a great career, and we're lucky for it because he's a fantastic artist. Anyways, I forget where the key is on these Valley games. It's on the side here. We'll throw the key in and we'll take the translite out and we'll see what we've got back here. I've opened this up before. This thing is musty and kind of corroded and nasty. But yeah, we've got a lot of really dirty. Ugh. Okay, so we're in South Carolina. South Carolina is basically a jungle. It is very humid. These bulbs have like dust that is just coated on with moisture. It's not that bad. Generally when games get stuck in moisture, that's all bad, right? We don't want anything to do with that. This one's just musty and a little corroded back here, but it's not so bad. This is a common thing. Oh, someone's tried to fix that and did a god-awful job. Here, let's, oh, I don't have the small camera on anymore. Here, we're gonna dual camera it. Right. I'm gonna turn that one off and that one's on. Okay, sweet. Oh yeah, just in case anyone wants to know, the code is PT Holiday, just FYI. These side-by-side displays here, you know, they're soldered into the bottom. This one's been replaced, that's fun. But then they use like a double-sided tape and like a standoff at the top. It's very common for that adhesive to wear out over 30-something years. So someone put like double-sided tape and Velcro back there. I commend thee, that's great. But maybe we will try to fix that. Sometimes I'll use like really high-strength silicone to kind of get those to glue in. I hope these things still work. Anywho, we'll open up the insert. The displays slide away. And we just have a really dusty, slightly nasty Elvira. It's really not that bad. This is a lot better than I remember it being. When the customer brought this to me, the first thing I did was immediately jump in and make sure the batteries were removed. We're looking at the top right camera here now, y'all. The batteries were still in here and they were corroded. But the corrosion never really dripped off of the battery holder, which is just absolutely fantastic. So we've got a pretty clean board. Something exploded at some point. You see that dirt and dust on those chips right there? It's kind of hard to see because it's so bright. But we have burnt something there, but it looks okay otherwise. Everything looks, I mean, pretty nice, not mucked with. We have to take the board out to see, but all the chips that should be not socketed or not socketed, it doesn't look like there's been any crazy work done to this game, and that's good to see, to me. I like to see those sorts of things because I know that hopefully I won't have to unfix someone else's poor fix, but we'll see. I believe this is System 11B. This is one of the last System 11 games that was made before the switch over to WPC. The way I can tell it's not the final edition, or what we would call C, is that this game still does have the audio section here in the top right. This is all audio. What would happen is we've got generally sound will be done on this section of the board, and then we have another soundboard here that will process the music and speech. So we have sound, we have data on this ribbon cable from the MPU to here, and then we have the actual audio signals produced by the sound section here that are then popped up via this cable, where it is then mixed together. And then we've got our output here, which goes down to the pot in the cabinet, so we can turn the volume up and down. But otherwise, it looks pretty nice. This power supply also looks pretty nice. We are going to recap it though. Let's do the bare minimum. We'll cap it. We're replacing the electrolytic capacitors in the 5-volt circuit. And then we will power it up without anything plugged in. And that way we can ensure that the power supply is still putting out the correct voltages, the voltages we need to run the game. And then we can plug it all in and see if and what boots up. If it boots up and what it does, rather. So, yeah. Any questions? Oh, look, you can see my face. Hey. Yeah, I think Digirati was talking about the actual like flipper mechanisms, right? Not the actual bats. Which board does the Hoff live in? Wrong game. Yeah, geez, that's the other one. So yeah, okay, actually, so we can, I see one little hack here, but this is kind of normal. General illumination, extremely burnt. That's normal though. The Bally, or Williams, this is the interconnect board. So this was a way to be able to quickly disconnect the playfield. So all of these boards connect to the top of the interconnect board here, and then everything going to the cabinet or playfield comes out on the bottom. This is real standard for the general illumination connectors to be burnt. You've got 4 different strings of general illumination coming off of this board. We have these yellow and white wires here, yellow and then yellow-white. These are AC, 6.3 volts AC straight from the transformer. They're then fused on these 4 fuses, thus 4 strings of GI. And then it's sent out to the playfield here, and these things are just super burned. And that's really common on any Williams pinball game of the System 11 to WPC era. I kind of knew we'd have to fix that without even looking at it, but you can definitely see it's super toasty down there. I should have put it on the other screen, I'm sorry y'all. But I'm gonna yank this power supply out and then we'll do a little bit of board work. This is easy board work. If you have any experience soldering on circuit boards, this is generally, if there's no other damage, and these power supplies generally don't have damage, you're looking, I would call it a 2 out of 5. 1 out of 5, the simplest solder you can do is soldering a wire onto a coil, right? So in the terms of soldering work that you'll do on a pinball, this is a 2 out of 5. You do have to be careful with a lot of these power supplies, though. We don't want to do any more damage. You can do damage to these things. It is a double-sided board. You can damage the fillets if you are yanking or unsoldering things incorrectly. A fillet is the bit of material that bridges a trace on the top and the bottom side of a circuit board. So if I remember right, you know what, do I have a System 11 game here with a manual? Maybe Road Kings might have a manual. If I had a Moto, I'd have her yank up some manuals online. You know, I'm sorry, I totally should have brought a manual with me for this game, so I'm to blame here. But I think this power supply only does 2... This power supply outputs 4 voltages. You've got high voltage coming in from the transformer. That gets rectified, I think a half-wave rectifier rectifies that into your high voltages that are required to run your display. You've got 12 volts, or whatever the AC voltage is. It could be 16, 14. That voltage comes in and is then rectified into what will be the 12 volts DC. That 12 volts then gets turned into 5 volts. So those two voltages there. The high voltages, one of them is like plus 100 volts, and the other one is like minus 100 volts. And that is required to run the display. There are other voltages that are rectified elsewhere, which are used, which are on this like auxiliary power supply board here, or the what Williams called the auxiliary driver board. This thing's pretty trick. This is an era of game that removed diodes from coils. So all of the diodes for all of your playfield coils are on the auxiliary driver board. For some devices that require or deemed a heavy use solenoid or something like that, they're run through these big, chunky tip 36Cs, which are a beefier transistor. So what generally will happen is you'll have one of your standard transistors here ramp up and drive this one. This one will then drive the coil, which is just stronger. You've got your AC select relay. This is a really trick thing that Williams did to be able to control double the amount of driven solenoids using the same amount of transistors. The only caveat is that you could not drive them at the same time. So generally, this thing will drive solenoids in one position, then when the relay switches, it will drive flashers. So, let's imagine, I don't know if you can see, but you've got a couple kick-out holes in Elvira, right? If we shoot the ball into this kick-out hole, the AC select relay will then switch, and a bunch of transistors will fire and do a cool light show with the flashers. It'll then switch back, and the same transistor will fire to kick the ball back out. The AC select relay is generally very reliable, but you can have problems with them. Generally, the coil doesn't go out, but the switches can fail prematurely inside the relay. It's an interesting thing, though, and maybe we'll try to show or explain it when we get the game booted up. So, am I talking too much? I guess that's why you guys come here, though, right? So listen to me talk. Okay, sorry, chat. I'm ignoring you guys. Backhand pinball. What's up, dude? Oh, you guys are just talking to yourselves. Good. I am free to continue working. What is going to be the best view for this? Well, you know what? There's this handy dandy board holder thing. Let's see. I don't think I'm gonna. Well, maybe I can use it. I don't know. I like working in a shop more than at people's houses, but I'm so used to doing this stuff contorted into some weird yoga position, like using my elbow and a soldering iron to hold a board. But you've also got really cool things like this that you can slide a circuit board into. Oh god. How can I make this longer? Oh, it's spring-loaded, duh. But how? So you can like slide a circuit board into the board holder, and then you don't have to do weird circuit board soldering yoga. This thing could be handy for like having better camera angles and stuff when we're doing this, but I don't really want to use it. So I'm just showing you what it is for some reason. How do I twist it? Maybe I'll fall in love with it the more I complain about it. Well, I already hate it. So, okay. Anyways, that's how you do that. We're going to get rid of this. Maybe we'll use it one day when I feel like actually learning how to use one, but for now we're going to do it the tried and true old-fashioned way. This guy has the toys. Yeah, it is a neat toy. Is this, man, that light is really weird off of one side. But we kind of need the light to show this better. Let me turn the brightness down a lot. If Emoto could see this, she'd probably be so sad. What is he doing? Oh, that's not even this light. Where the heck is that coming from? This? Oh, that's terrible. Hold on. Get out of here, blue light. Okay, that's pretty good. Check it out. We're going to do some work. So the goal here is to replace all of the electrolytic capacitors. Daniel says the same kind of cabinet was used on pool sharks. Yep. Colin's not even watching. So why don't we just do this as a podcast then, and then I don't have to deal with all the camera failures and weird stuff. You guys don't need to see anything, right? I'm going to have to try to kind of do this by memory. I'm pretty sure that all of the electrolytic capacitors, other than these two, are part of the 5-volt circuit. I'm going to take the same approach that I take when I do like a Bally driver board with this. It is kind of my tried and true method in the sense of if the capacitors on the high voltage side fail, the worst thing that can happen, and I've also only seen these things fail once or twice, and not nearly as common as the other ones do. If either of these capacitors fail, we will lose a high voltage, which means we will not have a display anymore. So what? It kind of sucks. You can still play pinball, even though you can't see the display. But a lot of customers, especially in homes, it's just as matters as long as the game plays for now, that's okay. If any of these things fail, you will not be able to play the game whatsoever, or it will become unreliable and kill itself. If the game doesn't get a steady 5 volts, if the processor in the computer can't boot up with a nice solid steady 5 volts, it will do all sorts of crazy things to possibly damage or kill itself. Maybe some of you guys that are a little more tech savvy have heard about what would be called like a blanking circuit. That's kind of like an internal watchdog sort of thing where the computer has to see that it has 5 volts or like confirms that it has a nice steady 5 volts before it will allow itself to fully boot up so it can't hurt itself. If this thing sat around and floated at like a 2.4 volts, 2.5 volts, it might be able to boot up. You might have enough energy, it won't be able to control its output, so we'll have solenoids that might lock on, etc. This is my fancy way of saying I don't see these things fail very often. I can't remember the last time I saw these high voltage capacitors fail. I'm not going to waste my time touching them. We're going to replace all of the electrolytic capacitors that are in the 12 and 5 volt circuit. Now remember, 12 volts gets turned into 5. That's why they're on the same bit. So, am I being lazy? Probably. Will this thing eventually have an LED display? Possibly. We don't even know if these displays work. If we need to yank it out and do it again, that's fine. But if these displays do work, we'll see. Colin's not watching. Marco Ramirez is trolling me. Hi, Marco. No, I won't do a podcast. We're going to do this for real. So let's see here. I don't have my solder sucker. Let's do this. I don't have my electronic solder sucker. My desoldering iron. Let me use the right word here. I do need my flux. Let me go grab my flux over here. Let me sip this water. That's not my water, that's a can of flux. Don't drink flux. Thank you for posting the shipping code. You are a true mensch. Okay, let's start the top and roll down. I know that I kind of remember just by doing this so many times that I think it's 5 capacitors, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I brought some axial capacitors instead of radials. This uses all radials, but the Williams actually laid out the circuit boards to be able to accommodate either, which is kind of neat. Digerati Ohm, thanks for joining us here. Beat that snow and Merry Christmas, mate. I'm going to yank out C12 first. Got that guy there. Let me get my desoldering iron down here. Actually, let me use my desoldering iron because it's a little stronger than the small one that's in the desk. It's a big solder blob. Put down a teensy bit of flux here. Oh, this is disgusting. Man, it's almost time for me to get another thing of flux. This has served me well for probably 8+ years. A little goes a long way. the flux helps the solder melt. In the case of a, here, let's switch cameras too. This will be better because then y'all can see closer. Do you want to see closer? Probably. Is that bag of caps a kit or product you sell? No. This one isn't, and I realized that this morning as I was yanking these parts out of stock, that this should be a kit. We have power supply capacitor kits for a lot of power supplies, but we don't have one for this. I think the thing I need to see is if we have these higher voltage capacitors. Another thing with these capacitors is, I don't know about these ones, but a lot of the times the high voltage ones are expensive. To rate a capacitor at a higher voltage is, it takes more precision or something, right? It takes something. And there's not a lot of high voltage application, or there's not a ton of high voltage applications anymore. A lot of electronics run on like just teensy bits of voltage, right? The highest voltage in a Stern pinball machine, a new Stern pinball machine that is not wall voltage, is 48 volts. The highest voltage in this thing is enough to potentially kill you, 100 and something volts, right? These capacitors are rated 160 volts. So I need to kind of weigh, it's like, do I want to include these? How expensive are they? Is it going to make it not worth buying? Do these things fail enough? So many people have LED displays now. Do we need to include these that possibly $15 to $20 capacitors, and this will be an expensive kit, versus something that might cost like $14 or something, for just the ones that are in the 12 volt, 5 volt circuit. So long answer, no. Short answer, short answer, no. Long answer was that. Gonna unsolder this guy here. Since we are using manual tools and not a desoldering iron, we're going to try to get as much of the, oops, I don't have the camera centered at all. We're going to try to get as much of that solder out as possible. And we'll wiggle the capacitor gently and see if it's moving in its holes. It doesn't look like it is. So what we'll do now is I can grab the capacitor on the component side of the board, as you can see in your upper right. I'll then find those traces underneath the board, and I will heat them up, and I will wiggle them out. What this will do is melt all of the solder that is affixing these legs into the fillet, right? The fillet that runs through the board. If you just started yanking on these things, they're adhered enough where you might rip that fillet all the way out of the board, and that is bad a lot of the time. We can see here that this is a single-sided section of the board, right? So installing this capacitor, it only has connections on the back, but it's better to leave no trace. We don't want to damage things if we don't have to. So we have removed a 330 microfarad 10 volt capacitor. This is a filter circuit. This circuit is taking, if we use our analogy of capacitors kind of being like water storage, right? They allow the electricity to come in and hold itself there at a certain level as things keep moving along in the circuit. Generally, we want to try to replace these as close to the factory specifications as possible. If you can't find the exact capacitor at the exact voltage, perhaps, it's okay to go up in a filter circuit like this. This capacitor, I was able to get exactly the same capacitance, 330 microfarads, but I was not able, or it is no point in getting one that's only rated at 10 volts. This one is rated at 25 volts. And when I say rated at 25 volts, that means it can accept and withstand up to 25 volts before it will fail. Since this circuit I think this is a small filter on the 5 volt circuit as it is passing out. We can see that here too, right? Even without a schematic, we can just guess, right? 5 volts is what we use to run almost everything. Every computer runs on 5 volts. So one side of that is on this big, fat, gigantic trace here. And then it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4 pins in a test point. What's that test point? 5 volts. Once you're good at reading a schematic, you can kind of tell what you need. But this is our 5 volt test point. This filters that 5 volt circuit. It'll never see more than 5 volts, so using a 25 volt capacitor is fine. Back in the day, the tolerance is equated to expense. So making something that was okay to 25 volts may have been more expensive than making a capacitor at 10 volts. And when you're making 5 to 10,000 units of this at a time, it made sense to take the cheapest option, right? Nowadays, it's not like that. I think I've given this spiel a million times, so if you guys are sick of it, just tell me to shut up. Capacitors are marked. The short leg is the negative. The wrapper on the capacitor will usually have the indication of its polarity against that leg. So we know that this is the negative side. This board has a marking of a plus on one side. That's where the longer leg goes. If we look on the back here, we can see that this is the 5 volt test point. This is where all the 5 volts goes. That must be the positive side. There's a few ways for us to kind of tell the polarity or how to install these capacitors. The spacing of those legs was not exactly right. This one is a little bit further apart. We don't want to push this all the way down against the board and make it like bend them and do like damage to them, but getting it down nice and tight is good. We will give it just a gentle bend to hold it in place, but we will try to straighten them out as much as possible when we go to solder it into place. Actually, let's just do that now. A lot of the time I'll like to remove all the capacitors and then reinstall them. But sometimes, I don't know, if you don't have a schematic or you're forgetful, you might forget the order or where those things came from. So let's just install it now. The other thing we can see too, right? This is the ground leg of the capacitor. It goes to this pin, which also goes to these pins, which is also on this big fat trace here, which is ground. We can see it leading to one of these screw holes. We've got a big ground plane where it grounds to the back of the head. It's another way to kind of trace your way to figure out what the polarity might be if you're not lucky enough to have a schematic or you're working on something that is not pinball and you kind of have to do a little bit of digging and tracing to figure things out. Snip those nice and flush. Get them out of the way. All right, next. The big filter. This is the big boy. This filters the power like right after it goes through the, or before it goes into the rectifier. I don't remember. But this is one of those things where axial capacitors, right? There's hell of people talk. Hydrate with beer. Kyle, did you know? Wait, hey Kyle. Oh my goodness. Hey, there's someone who's spamming. Hold on, let me ban that guy. I don't get the pleasure of banning people, and I don't know if any of our one moderators are here, so. How do I do it? I mean, I do know how to do it, but. Let's delete that. Mods, help! No, it's okay. I'll just ban that guy. That felt good. Okay, bye, spammer. I was all excited. I was like, oh, a first time chatter. Nah, screw you. Get out of here. I will hydrate with a beverage. I don't have any beer. Nichicon makes the best capacitors. We do have a lot of cap kits, but I'll work on it. Brodnix, hey, I'm glad to be helping, mate. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to working on pinball machines. Mods help. Thanks, APB. Yeah, Kyle's pissed. As electronics get smaller and smaller, large form factor things are not necessary. big through-hole capacitors like this are kind of going the way of the dodo, especially axial capacitors. This form factor is very difficult to find nowadays. They've been, and especially in these larger capacities, we're going to have to do a little bit of wiring of a snap capacitor in place of this. We've done that a few times, but we'll go over that now. Let's uninstall this one, and we'll install this snap capacitor. We will need some extra bits of wire to wire into the through-hole portions, but this is really easy to do. Hey! Thank you, Wywin, for all of the gift subs. Look at all those people that are now subscribers. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Finished with work for the year. Lucky you, mate. I'm not. Gotta keep working. Gotta keep pinball parts flowing somewhere. So this does have a position for it to be a radial capacitor, but I find it easier to install these things, zip tie them to the board, and then tie wires to one side. So let's uninstall this guy. Teensy bits of flux. We don't want to use a ton of flux because it's messy and it's gross and it's bad, and we want to get it off the board once we're done. Since this is a Mondo capacitor, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to heat up that pad and yank it out. Same here on the other side. Heat it up, yank it out. Goodbye. Now we will take our solder sucker, heat up that solder once more, clean that hole out. All right. This really is a brilliant power supply. I love how they have allowed you to use radial or axial depending on what. And that could have been a manufacturing choice too, right? Like if something became too expensive or was out of stock and it was much cheaper to order an alternate form factor, it makes a lot of sense to be able to have that flexibility. So. Okay, I'm going to go on a small quest for some wire. Give me a moment. You guys behave yourselves while I go snip some stuff. Oh, hey, the lovely pink wire that I've been thieving. All right, that was quick. We will use some authentic Jersey Jack pinball pink wire for this job here. All right, so I'm going to use the solid pink wire for the positive, and we will use the light pink with a stripe for the negative. I hate that they're both really similar in color, but also it doesn't matter because this will never need to be done for another 30 years, and it's okay. So going back to the why a capacitor, and we're getting rid of that ripple I'm talking about. This is a big capacitor. This is like the big boy filter. That last one we replaced was 330 microfarads. This one is 18,000 microfarads. That's a lot of capacitance. What that is going to do is eliminate any ripple that might come in on the AC circuit, right? Alternating current is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 60 times a second on our 60 hertz power in North America. I forget what it is in the rest of the world. Daniel's watching the live stream and his wife is baking Christmas cookies. That's awesome. I want some cookies. Kyle is gone. Time to derail the chat. Yeah, what do we want to talk about? Ripple is delicious. 50 hertz. Okay, thanks, Andrew. APB, gifted a sub. You're very sweet. Everyone gets subs. 50 hertz in Germany. That's why you can't use the same devices. not only is the is that different, but also the wall voltages are different. In America, I'm sorry, North America, bits of Central America, in Canada, we use 120 volts or 115 volts at the wall. In most of Europe, it's over 200 volts. And they also have sockets in Europe that make sense, unlike the ones that are stupid in the US that will shock you if you do it wrong. So what I'm doing here is I've tinned, I'm sorry, I realized I didn't show any of that to the camera. Actually, you kind of saw. I kind of, what we did is I tinned the wire and I tinned the bit of the capacitor here. Now, to do this like super duper mega like anal safe, we would put some like heat shrink over this so there would be nothing that could ever touch this and cause any problem. But in practical reality, inside of a pinball game, most people will never open the back box, and also will not shock themselves or drop anything there. So I'm not worried about it, but we'll tin the wire, we'll tin the snap capacitor just a teeny bit, and then just heat them together. You don't want to install these the wrong way. They make a really, really big boom, a big capacitor pop when they are not polarized correctly. And all of their delicious capacitor juices go all over the place, and it's messy. Ask me how I know. Done it multiple times, so you don't have to. So we have the positive marked here. We also have a positive, I believe, marked here, which is going to be for the this side of the radial, right? If you were to install a radial, oh crap! If you were to install a radial capacitor in that position, let's make sure of that. Yep, that makes sense. We've got. It is a good idea to always check these things before you take it out, but we will believe the board, and that is how it goes. A lot of the time, actually, hold on now. I want to double check. A lot of the time, when boards are manufactured, things will always go one way. Electronics engineers will design all of them to have the positive at one side versus the other, but as you can see, like we've got capacitors facing up and down and sideways and every which way. Let me just quadruple check. I've got a Road Kings right here. We've checked under the board, we've checked above the board, I think I'm right. Ah, it doesn't have the original power supply. Of course it doesn't. Another System 11 over here. Ah, but this is the one that has the different supply. Okay, crap. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm right. I trust myself. Do you trust me? Do you want to see it go boom? Let me just double check here. Yeah, okay, well, actually, I'm being dumb. This, let's do this, like, right, if we didn't have another example, and I didn't remember, and I didn't believe that plus that was right next to that thing, which is never wrong. Crap, how do we figure this out? Well, let's look at the other side of the board. This is the top. This is the side that has a plus. Where does this go to? Okay, this goes to the 5-volt regulator. Let's see, it goes into these pins up here. Those say plus 12. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Well, what's the other hole go to? Big fat trace, it goes to the edge, and it goes straight to chassis ground. So, hey, there you go. The top one is definitely negative. And the gigantic plus that says, hey, I'm positive, is absolutely positive. Put it there. So, snap capacitor has a gigantic negative on one side. Let's yank that wire up to the top. Let's grab ourselves a nice zip tie here. We will zip tie the capacitor in. So this power supply is set up with some holes. Sometimes you might need to do this on unobtainium capacitors, on power supplies that are not set up for holes. Would you believe it if I told you that you can drill holes in PCBs and it is fine? With the one caveat of do not drill holes through traces. Early Williams boards use a big filter cap that is not available in its original form factor, and you can easily drill holes in them to accept a radial capacitor. Check it like 50 times before you do it. Don't blame me if you drill a hole in your board, but that is an option. Hey, we're hyping. Hello, everybody. Watch out for multi-layer boards too. Yes. Yeah, don't drill boards that are important for, yeah, absolutely. Phil's Pinball. What's up, Phil? Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us. When it comes to pinball, let's give this an exception of it up until like through the 90s, right? There are very few multi-layer boards. Actually, I can't think of any that are more than 2 layers. What APB Enterprises is saying is in modern circuit boards, you will have your back, your solder side traces, your component side traces, but a lot of modern circuit boards will have another layer of traces in the middle. If you have a circuit board out or from one of your pinball games, hold it up to a light. You can see the entire map through the silicone. It's pretty amazing. And sometimes you will be able to see extra little layers in between. Don't drill those. Now that we've got this capacitor in and zipped in, let's cut it nice and flush so we don't cut ourselves here. Let's get our wire strippers and we will position this wire just right. We'll give it a snip. We'll strip a few millimeters of wire off here at the end. We're going to keep that as bunched up as possible. We'll do the same thing here. I'm going to leave a little bit of a service loop. I want to do it something like this. This is not too offensive to me. We want these things to be as clean as possible and not messy or look silly, but we also want to make sure that we're not putting a bunch of strain on these wires or making it more difficult to manipulate. So having a little bit of extra wire here is helpful. Where'd my teeny piece of solder that I've been mooching off of go? There it is. Let's tin. We'll tin these wires up here really quick, and then I'll take a look at the checks. I'm sure y'all are yelling at me about drilling into circuit boards. I'm adding a little solder to the ends of these wires before we push them through the holes of the circuit board, just to make it so they don't fray as much, right? I'm not loading these things up with solder. I'm trying to keep them the same diameter, but allow us to put them through the through hole without making the wire go, you know. Yes, I am talking about restuffing caps. Kyle, can you move the camera down to see the entire board, please? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm bad with cameras. Usually I have an Emoto screaming in my ear saying, "This sucks. Fix it." It's hard to get the right angle, just because of the way the bench is set up. I wish we had all the cameras working and I could have put this on like the C stand or something. Yep, we're doing a capacitor set on another System 11 power supply here. Thanks for joining us, Phil. Hammer and chisel for your PCB holes. Hey, that works. Kyle's a professional on the wire work. I don't know about that. I just try to make do with what I can. We'll get this through the hole. We'll try to stuff it in just like we would as a through-hole lead on a capacitor or something like that.
That one went through a lot easier than this one. This one is a bit of a thicker wire. So let's do this. Let's get the positive one in first. I will try to bend it over a little bit and then snip off the excess. What we're doing is trying to fill this hole with solder. It only connects on the back side, and we've got our pad here. So as long as this wire is soldered to this pad, we're golden. Heating up the pad and the wire at the same time, bringing the solder into both to create a very solid connection. We want everything to be really hot as we bring it all together to allow it to make a solid connection. I'm going to snip off the excess here. Didn't slice it like super hard, like so it went like totally into the meniscus of the solder, but just enough so it's not sticking out and protruding too far. I'm going to try to heat up the wire here. This is the one that doesn't fit perfectly through the hole. I'm hoping that if we heat it up, it will kind of soften and I'll be able to kind of stuff it through the hole. This is going to make the wire very hot, so hopefully I can do it quite quick. I'm going to heat, 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 wiggle and push, and there it goes. Perfect. We'll do the same thing. I'll kind of bend it over. Is it hot? No, it's not hot. It's a little too stiff to push over though, so we'll use the iron. Get it nice and hot. Try to bend it a little. There it goes. And we will bring it all together. Watch the solder suck in once everything becomes hot. Create a nice little solder hug on the wire, and we will snip it, the excess, and there we go. We now have a radial snap capacitor installed in place of an axial capacitor. It looks a little goofy. I think if you weren't, I don't care about the wire color, but you know, probably would look better with black and red or something like that. Or if you really wanted to go perfect Williams, Williams used gray for 5 volts. But I guess this is on the 12 volt circuit, so you could use gray and white wire on the positive side and black for the ground. But you know, it's all in one. We put the ground wire inside of the zip tie so it doesn't wiggle around too much. It is all in place. It's got a little bit of strain relief. This isn't going to touch anything weird. Yeah, all good. So let's move on. I am taking a long time talking about all this stuff, so let's, there's not much new with what we're doing for the rest of this, so let's get with it. Whip my head down. This is the thing, like, I think last week someone asked me, it's like, well, how much would you have charged if you were doing that Baywatch for somebody? And it's like, it's hard for me to guesstimate that because, look, it's taken me 2 hours to like just talk about pinball, and like now it's taken me an hour to change 2 capacitors. If you guys weren't here, I was just sitting here with my head down at the bench. I mean, I would have been done with this an hour in 10 minutes. This is a very quick job. When everything's in front of you and you have everything that you need in front of you, it's quite simple and quick. These things do seem to take a lot longer when we are talking, right? I'm trying to give information as I do it. But don't let that discourage you. You take as much time as you absolutely need to get this job done the right way. Don't rush and cause headaches for yourself. Okay, positive goes on the right with axial capacitors. The side with the groove. See that groove there? Let me push it over to my arm. You can kind of see where the groove is. It's got a little groove on the left side of the screen. That's the positive side. All those arrows are pointing to this side with the negative. That is the negative side. So I will install it in the hole that has the plus. Put the positive side here. Negative side here. Make your work look good. I like to, something about aesthetics to me, center it in its position, try to, you know, make it look kind of natural. You know, the number one
I mean, when I was really learning how to do this stuff years and years and years and years and years ago, Chris, the way Chris would grade me on how I did my work was if it looked like I didn't do it. And what that means is make it look as just is you know, professional and like a machine did it. Make it look like you weren't even there, right? When you can make your soldering look as precise as a solder bath, that's how you know you can solder very clean and well. And that's always my goal, is to make it not make a mess, right? And that's something to strive for. I'm not that good anymore since I don't work on pinball games all day, every day, but I still think I've got some of it. Oop, let's put a little flux down. Which one am I doing? This one. Get a little flux on that guy there. Oop. I was trying to blow the smoke away from my face, and I missed my solder pump action. Yeah, I'm still a fan of actually like yanking the capacitors out before hitting it with the solder sucker. This one actually came out clean, but it's easier to kind of wiggle them out and then you clean the holes afterwards. Sorry, internet. Will you change the bridge rectifier to? I will not. There's, you know, unless it is failing when I put it in, there's no use to replace it now, in my opinion. Perfectly clean, wow, you're thinking. Power supply noob. Are those fins next to the new cap for heat dispersion? Yeah, this is a giant heat sink. This is like a grunt regulator, is I think what people will call it. You don't, this thing just sits there and takes 12 volts and it turns 7 of those volts into a ton of heat and then outputs 5. And that's what this heat sink is here to do. It is a very inefficient way of regulating voltage. There are new ways to do it that are a lot different, and that's why you don't see giant heat sinks on a lot of power supplies anymore. Shocked I didn't use orange and white. Why not? I'm all about the pink. I just have a ton of pink wire over there, so I just use it. I like the pink. Again, if we wanted to be really Williams-ish, we would have used gray-white and black. Gray-white is Williams color for 12 volts, positive 12 volts. 330 microfarads at 10 volts. Wait. Oh, there's multiple 330s at 10. Okay. This is 47 at 25. Ah, okay. You know what? I was looking at the diagram wrong in the manual, and Wait, did we already do the 47, or am I tripping? We might be tripping. Maybe I was reading it totally wrong. Okay, hold on. Sorry, y'all. 100 at 25, so that's for C7 right here. Do I have another 330 at 25? Might have. Well, I probably have it in my toolbox over there, so at least we can finish up for the day. Here's 330 at 25 here again. I'm pretty sure that is the one. Oh, but I knew it was one of these little gray guys, and it was 330 at 10. The other one's 330 at 10, so here's another 330 at 25. Positive goes this way, so we'll stick it in here like that. Try to get it nice and parallel to the board. Bend those wires out just a teeny bit for holding it in place, but we'll try not to leave it that way once we reinstall the capacitor. Pink is sexy, I would agree. Can you use any kind of cap in place of stuff like tantalum or ceramic? No. You definitely want to replace those with the correct style. Those capacitors are magic. I really don't understand why those are used in
the applications they're used in, to be honest, but they do something just a bit different. Electrolytic capacitors. The reason we only change the electrolytic capacitors on this power supply is because electrolytic capacitors have a shelf life. There's a bunch of magical juices inside of these capacitors that degrade over time. Any bit of electronics that is over, 10, 15 years old, I think have kind of like outlived the the lifespan of those components. And a lot of times why electronic devices fail are because of broken or leaky capacitors. In a long time ago, before I did pinball like for a job, full-time, etc., like when I was a teenager and I was playing music a lot, we would get, find cheap amplifiers or broken amplifiers that people would give us, or effects pedals or things, and that's kind of where I learned to solder. And a lot of those cheaper but still usable like solid state amplifiers, not tube amplifiers, a lot of the times the problems with those things would be cracked solder, because everyone wants to play at 11. That's the best volume to play guitar and music at. And also just dried up capacitors. This is a 100 microfarad at 25 volts. Here is a 100 microfarad at 25 volts. Oh, I have to clean these holes out really quick. And again, the capacitors I'm changing, all of these capacitors are on the 12 and 5 volt circuit, which is the important one. If any of that has any ripple or bad, and if you do have capacitors that are failing, your game will not work. And that's not good. You want your game to work. Okay. We now have a power supply that has all of the power capacitors on that circuit replaced. Electrolytic capacitors. These are for the high voltage. We talked about that earlier. We've got a few tantalum or film capacitors on the power supply, but those don't go bad until they do. So we're not going to replace those. I'm going to snip the leads off here. We're going to inspect all of our header pins here. We're going to inspect the outside for wear. These look okay. When I say wear, we're looking for the plating to be worn away on the actual header pins. When that's not going to be able to focus, but you'll notice when the plating is not super shiny, it's worn away. When it's worn away, that creates extra resistance, that makes things hot. When things get hot, they start to burn, melt, and it gets bad. All of these are okay, and they are serviceable. I'm going to leave them. I don't see any cracked solder, but even though I don't see any, just for giggles, let's, generally the pins that will be cracked on a header like this are going to be the outside pins. When people remove them, they go, and that puts stress and bends these things left and right on the outside edges. And what that does is causes the pin to move. Enough movement will crack it in its hole, and that's when you have a cracked solder joint. So a lot of times if these don't look cracked, which none of them do, I'm going to just hit the outside two most pins just to give them a little bit of extra love, heat them up, let them melt back around their header pin. AC power, ground, and the regulated voltage go in and out on that big plug. I think the high voltage, no, these are AC. So you've got AC voltages coming in on this plug, and then the high voltage coming out on that plug. So maybe I have it wrong. I'd need to double check the manual, but the really long one is of all of your regulated voltages and grounds going out to the boards. This one is high voltage going out to the displays. That is the only thing that runs these really high voltage, runs off these high voltage regulators. And then the AC is what comes in to be turned into DC by magic, so the computer and the rest of the pinball game can use that power. And when I say magic, I mean bridge rectifiers, because they're magic. Didn't even need to bust my solder out because I had a teeny piece laying on the bench. Yay! Okay. I don't like working on high voltage stuff. It's not fun. Do the magical juices come from the same source as the magical smoke inside the chips? It does. And if you wire a capacitor in backwards, you get magical smoke from those magical juices. Now accepting Williams System 11 repair work. Now where do I sign up? Right here. I'll be over tomorrow. We'll get all this stuff done. I'm going to use this gross rag. I don't have a toothbrush to get the flux off, but like I said, generally I will spray the board down with the flux remover, use a toothbrush to cut it off. I will be a little less efficient and let the flux wash it away and then kind of hit it with a toothbrush. I'm going to go do this over a garbage can really quick. Not a toothbrush, a rag. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired. All right, now we have a nice clean power supply. Get rid of the nasty flux that is on the board. No, it's not. Yay. So let's do this also while the power supply is out. What time is it? Oh, it's almost time to end. Let's measure the voltages before we go and maybe boot the game up. See what we have in store for us next time on this show. So let's see. There is a diagram in the head that will tell me these fuse values. So F1, in the power supply, we have a 3/8 amp. Auxiliary driver. Well, where the hell is the one for the power supply? They have the one for the auxiliary driver, but it looks like the power supply one is gone. Cool. Does someone want to be super cool and open up the Elvira manual and tell me what the fuse values are for F1, F5, and F4 are? This one is a 7 amp, and this one is, these seem right for some reason, but I don't want to just use my brain because it doesn't work anyways. This is also a 7. All right, no one's doing the, yeah, all those fuses are for this board. Trying to find that sticker, see if it maybe fell down, or if in the bally head it's somewhere hidden, which would be stupid, but it's not. Let me open the, let me go clean my hands, and then I'll open it on my computer if one of you aren't doing it now. Give me a sec.
Oh, Andrew's got it. Thank you. F1, 3/8. That's correct. F2 and 3. 1/8 amp? I think these are 7s. Are you kidding me? Wait, so it's F5 and F4 on the power supply. Oh, you did say that. F4 and 5. Oh, 7 amp. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay. So those probably fuse the 12 volt or 5 volt line. Oh, there is F2 and F3. I didn't see those. I'm a dummy. These are microscopic fuses. They're very, very, very fine. They're designed to explode very quickly if either of these high voltages go out of whack. I mean, they're so cloudy I can't even see the fuse filament in there, but it's there. 1/8. That's correct. Whoa, I just broke that fuse. Holy shit. Okay, well, that one wanted to come out as just a glass tube. Now it's a crack pipe. Let's see. I don't know if I have any 1/8 amp fuses in my kit. I'm gonna go look. Whoa, look at that. Holy crap. That's not even a butt hair. That thing is so thin. That's crazy. Super high voltage, but extremely low amperage. Wow. Let me go see if I have an 1/8 amp. Give me a sec. I don't. I have 1/4 amps is my lowest fuse in my kit. We could use a 1/4 amp fuse. Would I feel like a little wrong doing it? Yes, but it's very close. And we're talking like fractional things like that, not an actual amp. I do need to get some more 1/4 amp fuses. My kit's almost out. All right, I'm gonna deem that acceptable. 1/4 amp. Okay, let's hook this thing up. We'll measure some voltages and then we'll pat each other on the back for you guys sticking around and listening to me do this today. What's everyone doing for Christmas? Is anyone going to do anything fun? Who's going to help keep the magic of Christmas alive? I will for my cats. Suddenly, my cats will wake up with all sorts of delicious treats. I think I'm going to fix my xenon this weekend. My wife has to work on Saturday since she's the manager, and the title of manager means you have to do things when other people are not. So she has to work. And I might do a little bit I'll do some cooking, and then I'm gonna do some fixing, and then I'm probably gonna work on the design, or working on the design of my homebrew game. I'm gonna continue modeling it in Visual Pinball. It's gonna be fun. Colin says, wife and I are staying home. Both of us are sick. Nice, excellent. I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. It sucks when you're sick on a holiday. It'd be great if you were sick all week before the holiday, and then you were fine during the holiday. I'm gonna start this one by hand. This screw is hard to get to because of the panel here. Well, I'm using my, oh crap. I'm over here, sorry y'all. Hello. Yeah, we're just staying home. I don't have any family here. They all live really far away. So we're just going to enjoy each other's company and the kitties. Okay. If we keep this plug out,
we will not have any voltage going anywhere in the game. Same with this. This is our high voltage plug. This is AC coming in. We'll plug that in. That means the power supply can sit here and do its job, and we can measure what it's putting out. I've never plugged this game in before. I am going to do a really quick just peering inside the game, just to make sure that it doesn't look like super unsafe. I've never lifted the playfield or anything. There is a ball guide in here that's annoying. There's a cache box way in the back. The transformer is extremely clean. The game is very dirty. There's broken glass. Otherwise, it looks okay. It's not that bad. I think it's going to be safe to turn on. Why am I getting so many text messages? Oh, it's you nerds in the Discord. Thank you. I thought I had Discord turned off. Oh, whatever. Okay. Let's take a sip of some celebratory water here. Only the finest waters for working on pinball games on a Thursday. It's missing its ground plumb. We'll either replace the entire cord or just replace the head. This cord seems to be in okay condition otherwise, so maybe we'll just replace the head of the cord. We'll plug it in. Let's get our handy dandy voltmeter here, and we'll hit those test points to see what we got. This is where we say, I sure hope that we didn't wire any of these capacitors in backwards. Let's just do a double check right now. Positive. The negative is facing away from there. The negative is facing away from there. Positive. Negative is away from that. So let's move away from the game. We'll power the game on, and I'm watching for fuses to light red or anything weird. All right, no capacitors are smoking or exploding yet. So this is what we have, the sign of a game. I'm always nervous now that I've been talking and doing the work. We've got GI, right, of course. That's just a pass-through. We've got AC coming into the interconnect board, running to the lamps and then away. We only have half our GI working because most of it is burnt the hell up on the interconnect board. But we probably have a power supply that's doing something. So let's take a look. Hey, MPT3K gifting some sweet subs. Thanks, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy holidays to you as well. Back home in beautiful San Francisco, which I miss very much and I don't hate, even though you think I do, but I love it. The fuse wasn't a problem. We've never powered this game on. We just do this work to make sure that we will have a safe and reliable game moving forward. When we have a solid base, everything will work better as we progress. So you're not really going to be able to see much of this. So what I'm doing is I have my voltmeter in voltage mode. I'm going to take my ground probe and I'm going to stick it underneath the ground wire in here. This is the easiest way to be able to work with one hand and see what I'm doing. Remember, in pinball, we're not like measuring voltages to a tenth or a hundredth. If it's close enough, we're good. If it says 5, we don't need to use the digital ground. If we're using an earth ground, it's fine. It doesn't matter. In this instance. So let's hit all our test points because this power supply has test points, and that's fantastic. It makes everything so easy. Let's check the important one, 5 volts. 5 volts. I have 5.25 volts. That is very healthy. That is great. Let's hit the positive 12 volts. We have 14.54, that's fine. The 12 volt circuit on this is unregulated, right? So we have 12 volts that comes in, gets filtered. It gets grunt regulated down to 5. and then it is like digitally regulated with this chip here, and it puts out a solid 5. So 14 volts is great. That's exactly what we want. Let's check the negative 12 here. Negative 12, we have negative 14.7. That's awesome. I don't think we have test points for the high voltage because that's a little dangerous, but we do have the pins on the power supply itself. Here. You guys just look at this. You don't need to see where I'm poking, right? Let's look at the connector. I don't remember which is which, but we do have, okay, so this one says plus 50, so let's hit that one. Be very careful when you're working with these higher voltages. Be steady with your probe. Oh, never mind, that says plus 5, not 50. The display does need 5 volts as well to run the electronics on the display, right? The decoders and encoders. Negative 100 volts is on the outside right here. We have negative 108 volts, that's fine. And then positive 100 volts, looks like it's this pin. We have a plus 110, that's awesome. So, as long as our display glass is good, the thing should fire up just fine. I say we just try to boot it, right? Everything else looks pretty safe. Everything looks okay. It's not super corroded. It's not really corroded at all. What I will do before we try to boot this thing up, JG on YouTube, hello. Welcome to the stream. Plug it all in. Let's do it. What I will do before we plug it all in, though, is let's hit this thing. Let's hit this thing with the. Let's hit the chips, right? All the socketed chips. Let's just give them a push. Make sure that they're seated 100%. Sometimes just pushing on them a teeny bit will move some crap away and make better connection in the socket. This era of game has reliable sockets, so we're good. We're going to plug the power output plug in. So this is what's sending our 5 and 12 volts everywhere. We're going to plug the high voltage in. And we're going to watch the MPU boot. You will have, there's a set of diagnostic LEDs here. You'll get like 5 volts will come on, then blanking will be solid, and then blanking will go away once the computer can fully boot itself up and it's safe and happy. What we will do though is let's remove all of our solenoid outputs. We can make it a little safer that way. So we can remove these guys here. I think that ends up making this safe as well. So we're good. But we should see a sign of life, hopefully. Yeah, hey, we have a booting computer. Awesome. I heard the soundboard make some noise. It's probably saying, adjust failure. Factory settings. Okay, we have one display working. Let's hit the advanced button here. Both displays are working. Okay, that's fantastic. Let's get out of the adjustments here. These switches are so dirty. They haven't been used in years. All right. Hey, look at that. We've got a booting game. When we say booting, the computer is running the program, and it is giving some sort of an output. We have multiple outputs on this game right now. We have the working displays. We have working outputs within the feature lamps themselves. The soundboard is doing something, which is great. I'm hearing the standard like diagnostic bings and boons. Let's see here. So we're going to hit the pot here. Let's move it up and down, try to clean it up a little bit. And this is actually an important bit because the scariest part to me is going to be the soundboard not working. So I'm going to get it into diagnostics mode and start the music test. All right, so we have music. So that section of the upper soundboard is working. The pot is very dirty. Oops, oh shucks. Hold on. sound test too. Hold on, display test. Yeah, there we go.
Boom! Let's party! Live! Organ! Boom! Let's party! Live! Organ!
So that test goes through and tests different portions of the rest of the audio board. So it tests it's testing sounds that are driven off of the MPU, and it's also testing voice on the other soundboard up here. So it's testing the DACs. It's just pushing everything we need through, which is just great. That makes me really happy that all of this stuff is working. Sound can be a very annoying thing to troubleshoot, and I'll be honest, that's like one of my biggest weak spots. So we'll hope that it continues working. When we play the game, we'll figure out if we need the capacitors redone. This game will be for sale. The owner of it wants to get rid of it. If any of you guys want an Elvira, we could probably get you a good deal. You just come down to South Carolina and come get it. It's in okay shape. The playfield is dirty, but it will look very nice. It's not super blown out either, which is interesting. He did okay me to do cosmetics, so we're probably putting new ramps and new plastics and stuff in this thing, and it will look very good. The cabinet is the weakest bit. We've got some, normal damage around legs and stuff like that, but otherwise, I mean, honestly, if I was loaded, I would just tell the dude that I wanted it because I've wanted this game for a long time. So, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll scream. I'll tell the dude, it's like, hey, I really want this. Let's just make a deal. But I actually don't want it because I have a ton of games and I don't need any more. But I do want it. Anyways, that was fun. We have a mostly working game. We do need to do a lot more to it. The playfield will take some time, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. This should be a pretty standard set of crap to do from here on out. So we've been here before. We've done this a billion times, but it's always fun to do again. I've done a bazillion games like this in my time, and it is always exciting. Ugh. All right, what are all you nerds saying? Crusty pots. Yeah, lots of crusty pot. Yeah, I'll work that pot and figure it out. Guitar Center has a good price on Deoxit. Interesting. $1,500. No, not anymore. The last time I got offered to buy an Elvira and the Party Monsters, it was $1,300. And it was in some dude's like living room or in his like game room basement for like 20 something years. And I was such an idiot for not immediately driving to the bank and buying that damn thing. I had to do the right thing and call my wife and beg my position of like, please can we buy this? And as soon as she said yes, I called the dude, he said his wife had sold it, and I'm sad. Someone should buy it. I'll fix it for you. Or we'll just stop working on Elvira right now, and you can come and pick it up and fix it. But yeah. It'll be good. It'll look really good when it's done. It's like, I mean, those ramps might even clean up. I wonder if this game is like a South Carolina game. It doesn't have any operator stickers on it, but I wonder if like the South Carolina people for being super moral, and this is a very immoral game. It involves scantily clad women and drinking, so no one ever played it, and that's why it's in like such okay shape. It's just dirty and nasty, but it's it'll end up being good. Anyways, I'm excited to go home and be immoral and enjoy some whiskey of some sort. What are you guys up to tonight? There has to be something fun going on for you guys as well. I hope. I can barely read the chat. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make an appointment to get some new glasses. And I'm going to take a day off of work next week and go to the optometrist, or some week. Wow. Yeah, you should have got that Radical. I love Radical. Last time I was at Logan Arcade, I was talking with the owner, and he told me that the Radical he has on the floor used to belong to Dan Langiolis, the guy who designed that game, and that was super crazy. It's such a nice game. It's insanely beautiful. It's there for everyone to enjoy. Wywin, drinking and jamming on Godzilla. That's a good choice, my friend. Godzilla is a fantastic pinball machine, and I'm jealous. I wish I had a Godzilla. I'd love to play me some Godzilla. And I have all the opportunity to play Godzilla, but I am too lazy to leave my house to actually go play it. So be it. Godzilla just has that perfect amount of flow and choreography that it's just such an exciting game to play. I'm excited to see the new James Bond code that hopefully is coming sometime soon, because I still want to dive deeper into that game. I'm excited to get George to come back on the show. Hey, yours is in your house. That's great. Godzilla is almost as good as a game as Whitewater. Almost. What camera's on? That one? So. Supposed to sell it to make room for Weird Al when it's ready for delivery. No. Don't sell it. You will want to sell it. It would be hard to get another one at this point. You should keep it and enjoy it. And then you have two vastly different games to play with vastly different experiences to be able to enjoy in your game room. I mean, also, I'm just telling you how to spend your tens of thousands of dollars at a time. But in my opinion, you should keep it. Furniture is overrated. Yeah, in my old house, before I moved in with my wife, I actually had a pinball game for a living room table. That was fun. Or like a dining table. What delicious water. I think I need to brave the idiocy of South Carolina drivers in the dark and the rain to go get some groceries tonight. But yeah, I mean, next week, same time, same place. We will be working on Elvira again, I'm sure. I'm going to keep mentioning that it's for sale, so one of you guys comes and buy it. I don't think the dude even wants that much money for it. And I think it really also partly depends on how much money I put into it. But, yeah, it's for sale. Come buy it. Good show today. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. You're going to send me outside conditions? Hey, man, I don't mind the snow. I mean, I also know that I haven't lived in the snow, but I like the snow. It can't be that bad. I'm going to see this picture that APB is going to send me. He's probably going to send me, like, under 15 feet of snow or something ridiculous. Let's see. He's too slow. I'm not going to hold my phone on here anymore. But yeah, you know, I got to go get some Christmas dinner sorts of things. So everyone's getting ready for blizzards. Hi, Moto. Thank you. It must be nice. I just like it when it snows. It's like the coziest thing. And it sucks to go out in. I do know that. But it's just cozy. Otherwise, it's just cold. And being cold is miserable. But if it's cold and snowing, at least it's kind of charming, right? Yeah, anyways, it's late. Ugh. I have to brave the dummies in the snow, etc., etc. I wonder who's streaming. I wonder if Mr. Mystery Pinball Theater 3000 is streaming currently. He came in and generously gifted us some delicious subs. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm looking at the outside conditions in northern Chicago area. Yeah, that's pretty snowy. It looks lovely, though. Manu is online. Okay, let's. We'll probably end up going to raid Manu. Let's see who's up. Let's see who's up. It's generally only Manu, and that's fine because he is my preferred raidee.
I think that's like the correct thing to say, right? Yep, the decision is made. The decision is made. We're gonna go see Manu. MPT 3K. Okay.
That's great. We have a working game. This is super cool. Theoretically, the hard part is over. We will be either putting an NVRAM or remoting a battery in this game. So we will go check out a few more things, but thankfully the perceived hard part's done. Now it's just a bunch of physical boring, cleaning, removing, replacing, adjusting, blah, 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 blah. But that's fine. Not every job needs to be a learning job. Sometimes jobs are just rinse, repeat stuff like this will end up probably being, I hope. So thanks for sticking here with me and learning a little bit. Hopefully I taught y'all something. I hope y'all have a nice holiday. Eat food, get drunk, be merry, or just be merry. Do something if you don't live a libatious lifestyle. Enjoy yourself with your family or whoever you choose to enjoy it with, even if it's just yourself. Yeah, so, okay. Tell Manu to get rid of follow only chat. No, follow him. He's a great guy. Good night. Thank you for joining us. Happy holidays, roller pinball. I found my drill bit. Thank you for joining us and learning. Okay, I can sit here and say goodbye all day, so we're just gonna raid Manu. Everyone on Twitch is about to go see one of the best produced streams, which is going to be nothing like this crap show you just watched now, which was fun, but here it goes. Look at all you guys getting ready to raid. All 21, 23, 26, 29. Oh man, there's a lot of you on Twitch. Thank you. Everyone on Facebook and YouTube will still be here. Goodbye, everyone. Merry Christmas. Goodbye. All right, now all y'all that are on YouTube and Facebook,